times this gets asked in an interview as to what an elastic block store is. So it's a network drive that you can attach. So similar to your USB, it allows your instance to persist data. So even after the termination. So even after you have terminated an instance, any data that is stored in the EBS that still is retained there. It can only be mounted to one instance at a time. Now this is very critical. This is probably one of the questions that is asked. How many EC2 instances can you attach an EBS? So an EBS volume can only be attached to one instance at a time. If you need to attach it to another instance, you first have to detach it from the first instance, and then only you can attach it to the next instance. EBS are bound to a specific availability zone. Think of them as a USB stick. Now, EBS volume, it's a network drive. It uses network to communicate with the instance. So there might be a bit of latency. It can be detached from an EC2 instance and then can be attached to another one. EBS volume is locked to an availability zone. That means an EBS volume in US East 1 cannot be attached to an instance in US East 1B. To move a volume across, you first need to snapshot it. Now, what is a snapshot? So when you are exporting your EC2 instance, you do it in the form of an AMI. So if you have an EC2 box, the disk image that you create is called as AMI. But when you have an EBS volume, the image that you create is called a snapshot. So an AMI is a copy of your whole operating system, but an EBS is a copy of your hard drive. So think of it that way, that only your network drive copy is called a snapshot, but your AMI is a copy of your whole operating system.
Okay, sir, I have a quick question actually.
Yep.
For snapshot, can I use this snapshot with the spot instances?
No, because your spot instances are very, very temporary. They're not meant for a planned computing.
Okay, we cannot choose a snapshot when the spot instance is creating, before the spot instance is creating, because we can we can make EC2 instance with the snapshot. I've checked them, but I just want to know that if there are any options to use snapshot
I've not used any spot instance for creating a snapshot, because spot instances are only meant for transition level computing. They're not meant for even attaching an EBS and storing data in it. So the use case that you're trying to say that's not really a use case, because spot instances you would not use to store data or attach an EBS volume. Spot instance you would use mostly for its computing power. So if you have, let's say, a transition queue that you want to process, you want to actually attach your spot instance to process some big data table or some sort of data warehousing activities, where you do not want any sort of persistent storage. So spot instances are mostly used only for the computing power. So
okay, I got that.
I'm not sure if this is a use case at all. They might allow to create a snapshot out of spot instances.
But how reliable would that be if you create something spot instance right now? After a few minutes, your data may be, because you are assuming that data is useful for you. But if that application continues spot instance for another 10-15 minutes, your data is going to be stale. So
no, I just want to check. Suppose I have a snapshot, I have a website, and the website is running in a small instances. Okay, so I just want to check that whether the application is fully working properly in a good configuration of instances. That's why I just asked this question. I can use the snapshot and use the snapshot to the what I say spot instances of big configuration spot instances, and let's check it's working properly, or how long it's take time to open the pages. These things.
I don't think
Just
I don't think that's a valid use case there, Vrita.
okay.
No, no, it's not even related, because if you're talking about spot instance, you're talking about the instance that was the EC2. But the snapshots, we are talking about the storage. Yeah.
Yeah.
The EBS storage. So just to have a copy of your what you have in your pin drive. But for the spot instance, we're talking about the instance, unless if you are going to use the AMI, so that you can use the AMI to have a copy of your instance.
Okay, they have
But
they have some specific AMI to use the spot instances.
yeah,
Right.
you can, if you create a spot instance, you can create an AMI, so that you can have, if you wanted to have like maybe 5 spot instance, then you can just, that has similarity, then you can just be using the AMI and creating the spot instance. Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
that you
Okay,
can
that's
have
correct.
the same
Because
copy.
I just want to check this, because spot instances are giving 90 to 90% discount. So if I select an EC2 instance, a big configuration, it will cost too much for certain time.
But
And I can
yeah,
get
but
that 90% discount. That's why I'm just checking this thing. It's
but
working
you
or
need
not.
but you need to understand that spot instances can be terminated anytime. For example,
Anytime.
let's
yeah,
let's
yeah,
say
yeah,
if you have any sort of planned usage, let's say if you want to try out your Apache web page from it, it can be
Mhm.
terminated anytime. So it's no use for any
Anytime,
sort of
yes.
planned activity.
But we can block this for 1 or 6 hours, right?
When you say
We
block
can.
this for 1 or 6 hours, it's
Yes,
you're not blocking it.
Actually, he wants to use Spot for practice. Basically, that's what he's.
yes.
You
But
can
that will get
experiment with.
terminated
Practice.
anytime,
Yeah,
Venki.
you can play around with it. There won't
Yeah,
be
play
an issue.
around with it. But
Yes.
you will see that sometimes when even when you're attempting to just log into it, after 2-3 minutes, it will just be gone. You would not be able to get much benefit
No,
out.
I have I have created a spot instance today, and it will work for me more than 30 minutes.
Okay.
I shocked. More than 30
Right.
minutes, it works for me.
I think you are too much bogged down by the low price of it. But if you see,
Yeah.
if you see from an organization point of view, there it does not really make sense for any sort of
No,
price.
I understand. Organization cannot use spot instances.
They can, but
understand that.
yeah, depends on the use case.
Yes, obviously.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Continuing forward to an EBS volume. For example, you have got, let's say, one EBS volume, which is, so you've got one EBS volume here, which is, let's say, a 10 gigabyte. So it's more like an external USB as we compared. So it's attached to this EC2. You've got multiple EBS volumes which you can attach to an EC2, but you cannot attach one. What you cannot do is you cannot attach one EBS volume to, let's say, there's another EC2 here. You cannot do this. So this is not allowed. So you can attach one EBS to one EC2, but you cannot attach one EBS to multiple EC2s. Okay.
Hi, sir.
Yep.
We can attach those snapshots, right? The EBS snapshots we can attach in the issue instance, right?
You can attach EBS snapshots to the instance. Snapshots they're just these are like encrypted drive through which you will have to create an EBS. So let's say if you have this EBS here, all right. So let's say you have this EBS. So how you would store this particular EBS is you will create a snapshot here, right? So let's say you've got this as a snapshot. Now, if you want to attach data in this snapshot, what you can do is you can create multiple EBS volumes. So you can create, let's say, an EBS volume here. You can create an EBS volume here, and then you can attach these two EBS to their own EC2s. Got it? So you can create
Yes,
as
got
many
it, got it.
EBS. You can create as many EBS from a snapshot, but once you have an EBS created, it can only be attached to one instance.
Okay, within one snapshot, we can create an multiple EBS. But for one EBS, we can only able to connect with one instance, not two.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And snapshot is like a binary file, so you can't do anything apart from creating an another EBS out of it, right? So it's just an image file. All right. So a couple of behaviors regarding EBS. So there's a delete on termination attribute. So what it means is that it controls the EBS behaviors when an EC2 instance terminates. So if you have this checkbox enabled, so that means your EBS will be deleted. So this is the EBS property. So if you look at this EBS property, so whenever you're creating an EBS, you can define as to what device. You can define if you want it for a snapshot, if you want to just name a snapshot with something, what size, what are the different types of SSDs, and your IOPS. Depending on all these, so if you include multiple more IOPS, they're more chargeable. But you can define the properties of the EBS, and also what do you want to do once your EC2 instance terminates. If you want to delete the EBS, you can also select that. This can be controlled using AWS console and CLI, and the use case is preserve the root volume when the instance is terminated. All right, I don't think there are too many slides now. We'll soon be going on to onto the demo. The EBS snapshot. Snapshot makes a backup of your EBS volume at a point of time. It's not necessary to detach the volume to do the snapshot, but it's recommended. And you can copy the snapshots across a region or an availability zone. Earlier case, you see, I think in one of the slides it said that you have EBS, and EBS is locked to an availability zone. So if you see here, it's locked to an availability zone, right? But what you can do is you can create a snapshot out of this. And if you want to launch your EBS in another zone, how you can do it is you create a snapshot here. And from this snapshot, you can create another EBS, right? And these two zones are different.